Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. Welcome to the Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Today is Flashback Friday, a feature in which I republish one of my earlier videos you might not have seen that contains really important coping strategies that will help you attain a better mood. Now here's today's video.
The title of today's video is You Can Be Restored. You know, there's an old book that came out when I was a teenager that was a bestseller called I've Been Down So Long It Looks Like Up to Me. Anybody who's been in a really bad depressive episode can relate to this. The image I like to use is standing at the bottom of a well, 100 feet deep. You're looking up, you can see barely a speck of light. You say, how am I going to get back out into daylight? You try climbing the walls, but they're slick, there's no rungs, no way to climb, so you feel completely hopeless. This is what it's like to be in a really bad depression. Many of us have felt this kind of despair. But no matter how far down you are, no matter how badly you feel, I'm here to tell you that you can be brought back to your former self. And the term I like to use for this is restoration. I remember a minister once told me that God is a God of restoration. And even if the word God is a loaded term for you or you don't believe in God, there is something about the universe that includes this principle of restoration, and I want to give you a few examples of this. The first one has to do with my own recovery from depression in 1996-97, where I was, again, critically depressed, suicidally depressed. Every day felt like it was going to be my last. And right in the middle of all this, a minister friend of mine came up to me and said, you know, I think when you get through this, you're going to write another book, a book about your experience that's going to help a lot of people. I said, you think I'm crazy? You're the one who's crazy, because one of the reasons I'm so depressed is I'm all washed up. You know, there's nothing left for me to say. I mean, I've reached my peak, and I don't know how you could say this about me. Obviously, I'm finished. And yet, the minister was right. I was restored, and I wrote the book, When Going Through Hell Don't Stop, that turned into the current book, Healing from Depression, which in fact has helped many people. Here's a second example involving physical restoration. A number of years ago, a friend of my nephew's was snowboarding down a hill at 20 miles an hour, lost control, went headfirst into a snowbank and was buried there for 15 minutes without oxygen. He was finally found. They did CPR. They did revive him. Later I learned that when a person's revived using CPR, in this situation they only usually survive 5 to 15% of the time, but he did survive. But his ordeal was not over yet. They took him to the hospital where he went into a coma for 9 days. And when he finally came out of the coma, the surgeons, the doctors, found 2 dead spots in his brain. Despite this, he went into physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and after extensive rehab, 5 years later, he's back to normal. In fact, he has his own landscaping business, which is very physically strenuous, as you might imagine, but he has the ability to do all those things. So he was restored to his former physical self. And a final example has to do with the many people I see coming to my groups who've gone through a divorce or relationship breakup. They're devastated, they're in a period of grief, but at some point that grief comes to an end and they meet somebody else and love returns. What is the saying? Love springs eternal, or hope springs eternal? Anyway, people find that after a long period of grief and loss, something comes back, and oftentimes it's another love. But here's the thing I find most interesting and most fascinating about the process of restoration. In the book of Job, it says that at the end of his ordeal, when he was restored, God not only brought him back to his former self, but actually increased his prosperity. In other words, he came out of his ordeal better than when he started. Now, how is this possible? The answer to this question lies in the work of a chemist named Ilya Prigogine, who won the Nobel Prize for what he called his theory of dissipative structures. Now, what he showed is that open systems, those systems that have a continuous interchange with the environment, often encounter periods of instability. And when that instability exceeds a certain threshold, the system breaks down and enters a state of what he calls creative chaos. Yet out of that chaos, a new and a higher order spontaneously emerges. They call this spontaneous transformation, and it's been known as the basis of physical evolution. Now, I believe what holds true on the physical plane is also true on the psychological plane as well. Our so-called nervous breakdowns can be seen as rites of passage that lead us into a more mature spiritual consciousness. Here is how survivor researcher Julia Siegel describes it. In a remarkable number of cases, those who have suffered and prevail find that after their ordeal, they begin to operate at a higher level than ever before. The terrible experiences of our lives, despite the pain they bring, may become our redemption. Although I never want to trivialize or minimize the suffering that depression brings, I do feel changed for the better by my experience in ways that would not have occurred had I undergone a lesser ordeal. This is certainly true of the book Healing from Depression, which happened not in spite of my breakdown, but because of it. Now, I realize that this is not always true. There are some cases where people don't recover, like in a terminal illness. But it's been my experience, the experience of my clients and friends, that restoration often does happen. And what I'd like you guys to do is, if you have your own story of restoration, please write it in the comments section, let me know, or send me an email, douglasbloch@gmail.com, and I'd love to hear about it and maybe use it on a future video.
This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you found the information on this Flashback Friday video helpful. If so, please give it a like, as likes draw more and more people to this channel and hopefully some more subscribers. You can also leave your comments in the comments section or email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you do want to subscribe to this channel, click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page. And if you click on the bell to the right, you'll be notified every time I do a new video or live chat. And if you want to contribute to this channel and become a patron, simply click on the Patreon image. You'll be taken to my crowdfunding site. And until next video, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much.